The colony of Haven 6 floated like a lonely pearl in the endless black sea of space. It was a small world, quiet and forgotten, built on rocky ground and surrounded by silver clouds. For years people lived there in peace, farmers growing crops under domes, children running through narrow streets, families building dreams on a distant star, but peace in the galaxy never lasted long. One night, when the twin moons rose high, the sky above Haven 6 burned red. Strange lights filled the heavens, long shadows of ships sliding down like blades. The alien fleet had arrived. The people of Haven 6 had heard rumors of these invaders. They were called the Dravari, cold and merciless. They came to crush weak colonies, take slaves, and strip worlds of life. No one had ever seen them defeated. Panic spread across the settlement. Sirens screamed through the domes. Children cried. Mothers pulled them close. Men grabbed old rifles that looked useless against warships the size of mountains. The governor of Haven 6 sent a desperate message into the void, a distress call, a cry for help. But deep inside, no one believed anyone would come. The colony was too far, too unimportant, too small to matter. Whispers ran through the streets. Earth has forgotten us. No one will come. Even the governor looked broken, his hands shaking as he watched the alien ships form lines in the dark sky. The Dravari sent their first message. Their voice was harsh, metallic, and cruel. Humans of Haven 6, surrender your world. No one will save you. The people trembled, but no answer came from Earth. The aliens struck fast. Their weapons cut through defense towers. Energy blasts turned fields of crops into firestorms. Families rushed into bunkers as dust and smoke filled the air. Every second felt like the end. In the command bunker, the governor stared at the comms screen. The distress signal kept flashing again and again. It repeated the same message. Mayday, this is Haven 6, requesting immediate aid, coordinates attached. But the void remained silent. Captain Lyra, a retired officer living on Haven 6, slammed her hand on the table. Her voice was strong, though her eyes showed fear. They will kill us slowly. They want to see us break, but we will not give them the pleasure. Her words gave courage, but deep inside everyone thought the same thing. No one was coming. The night stretched on. Alien ships circled above like vultures waiting for prey. They cut power lines, blocked escape routes, and destroyed the colony's small defense fleet with ease. The people sat in bunkers, listening to the rumble of explosions, praying to survive another hour. Children asked, "Where is Earth? Why don't they come?" Parents had no answer, only tears and silence. The fear grew heavier than the falling ash. In the dark, rumors spread. Some said Earth was too far, others said Earth did not care. Some even whispered that Earth's fleet had been destroyed long ago, and humanity was weaker than they believed. Still, the governor kept the signal running. Still, Captain Lyra told the people to hold on. She said, "Help will come. Humanity does not forget its own." But even she did not believe her own words anymore. Hours turned to days. The Dravari played with their prey. Sometimes they attacked, sometimes they pulled back, always letting fear grow. It was a game to them. They wanted the humans to break before they finished them. On the third day, the governor stood before the people. His face was pale, his voice heavy. He said, "We must prepare for the worst, but we will not surrender. We will stand together." The people cheered weakly. their voices tired. It was hope made of smoke, thin and fragile, far above in the cold silence of space. Scanners suddenly picked up a flicker at first. The operators thought it was nothing, just noise, but then the signal grew. Something massive was moving through hyperspace. The Dravari ships shifted. They had seen it too. Their formation grew tighter, their weapons charged. The invaders looked nervous for the first time. Down below, no one yet knew. The people of Haven 6 sat in silence, believing the end was near. They thought no one would come, but far beyond the stars, something powerful was awakening, something that would shake the galaxy. The answer to Haven 6's desperate call was already on its way. They just did not know it yet. The siege of Haven 6 dragged on like a nightmare without an end. Every sunrise brought smoke instead of light. Every night carried fire instead of stars. The alien warships hung above the colony like black blades. Silent but ready to cut, the Dravari did not rush. They wanted to watch the humans break. Inside the shelters, food grew scarce, water filters failed, and oxygen levels dropped. Families shared single rations, children coughed in the dust. The governor's voice came through the loudspeakers each morning, promising strength, but his voice grew weaker with every day. Even the bravest began to wonder if hope was just another lie. Captain Lyra refused to let fear win. She gathered the few defenders left, farmers, miners, and retired soldiers, and gave them old weapons from storage. "These rifles are nothing against starships," someone whispered, but she said, "They may not stop the Dravari, but they will show them that we will not kneel." Her words lit a small fire in the hearts of many, but fire alone could not defeat an armada. Above, the Dravari sent another broadcast. A voice filled the sky, cold and merciless. "Humans of Haven 6, your Earth will not come. Your people have abandoned you. Surrender, and you may live." The words pressed down like chains. Some colonists cried, others shouted in anger, but deep inside most felt the weight of truth. No one had come. The aliens began their games. They flew low over the domes, letting their shadows stretch across the streets. They destroyed one water plant but left the others untouched, forcing the colony to fight each other for supplies. They blasted a school to rubble, then drifted away, leaving the cries of children echoing in the ruins. The Dravari were not just killers, they were tormentors. In the command bunker, the governor stared at the silent comms. The distress signal still flashed endlessly, the same words repeating again and again into the void. "Mayday, this is Haven 6 requesting immediate aid, coordinates attached." He whispered to himself, "No one is listening, no one is coming." But far away, something was listening. It began with a flicker on the scanner, a tiny ripple in the dark, a signal almost too faint to notice. The operator rubbed his eyes, certain it was only static, but then the ripple grew stronger, beating like a slow drum in the void. At first, the defenders thought it was another trick from the Dravari, but Captain Lyra leaned closer to the screen, her eyes narrowing. "That is no alien code," she said softly. Her heart beat faster, though her mind told her not to believe. It could be nothing. It could be a ghost in the system. But something inside her whispered otherwise. For hours, the signal came and went, weak but steady. The Dravari noticed too. They shifted their formation. Silent but uneasy, their captains barked orders. Weapons charged. The predators suddenly looked like prey that had smelled something greater in the air. Still, the people of Haven 6 knew nothing. They huddled in shelters, thinking only of survival. Children whispered, "Why does Earth hate us?" Parents had no answers, their silence more painful than words. Then the sky changed. The stars above Haven 6 rippled like water. A deep hum filled the air, low at first, then rising, vibrating through the bones all. For every living thing, the ground shook as though the heavens themselves were opening. The Dravari ships moved quickly, their formations tightening, their weapons glowing brighter than ever. Fear passed through their crews, though no human could see it. They had fought countless battles, burned countless worlds, but something about this sound made them uneasy. It was not just another enemy, it was something greater. In the command bunker, Captain Lyra pressed her hand against the screen. The faint signal became clear at last. It was not alien, it was human. She read the code and felt her throat tighten. It was a fleet code, one used only by Earth's Central Navy. Her voice shook as she whispered, "They are coming." The operator stared at her, eyes wide. "Who is coming?" She answered with a fire in her voice that none had heard since the war began. "Earth is coming." The governor looked at her in disbelief. He wanted to believe, but fear held him back. "What if it is false hope? What if it is only another trick?" he asked. Lyra met his eyes and said, "Then let it be the last hope we hold, because without it, we are already dead." Outside, the people heard the hum grow louder. They rushed to windows and climbed domes to see the sky. Something massive was moving beyond the stars. The blackness split open, lines of light cutting through the dark like blades of dawn. The Dravari ships bristled with energy, their commanders shouting orders in panic. They had mocked the humans, they had tortured them, but now they felt something they had never felt before, fear of what was coming. And still the colonists watched with wide eyes. They thought no one would come, but the heavens were changing, and Earth's answer was about to arrive. The sky above Haven 6 was no longer silent. It trembled with a deep roar, a sound like thunder rolling across the stars. The colonists looked up with fear and wonder, their faces lit by strange light. For days they had lived in darkness. Now the heavens themselves were burning with fire. The Dravari fleet reacted first. The higher commanders shouted in their guttural language, ordering ships into attack formation. Their weapons glowed brighter than suns, ready to strike at whatever came through the rift. But behind their sharp voices, there was something they had not known before. Unease. In the command bunker, Captain Lyra gripped the console so tightly her knuckles turned white. The code was clear now. It was not a ghost, not a trick. It was Earth. Her voice shook as she told the governor, "It is them. It is really them." The governor wanted to believe, but his lips trembled as he whispered, "After all this time." Then the rift opened fully. From the darkness came shapes, massive shapes, not one, not 10, but hundreds. Ships bigger than cities slid into real space, their hulls glowing with blue fire. Their arrival was like watching the ocean pour into a desert, unstoppable and endless. The first to emerge was the Titan-class dreadnought, Eternal Resolve. Its cannons stretched like mountains of steel. Its shields shimmered like walls of light. Behind it came cruisers, carriers, destroyers, and swarms of fighter craft. The void filled with the colors of humanity's strength. The sky was no longer Dravari black. It was human silver and blue. On the ground, people fell to their knees. Some cried, some laughed, some simply stared in silence. Children pointed at the glowing ships, shouting, "Earth came! Earth came!" The hopeless whispers of the past days shattered like glass, replaced with a single truth: they were not forgotten. The Dravari unleashed their fury. Beams of green energy slashed across space. Missiles streaked like fireflies of death. They fired everything they had, desperate to strike before the humans could act, but the dreadnought's shields flared, bright as suns, holding against the storm. The human fleet did not break, it advanced. Captain Lyra's eyes burned with fire as she weighed.
Ched. They are not here to scare the Dravari, she said, her voice a whisper. They are here to end them. The colonists watched the first clash.
Human fighters swarmed like silver arrows, diving between the hulking alien warships. Every move was precise, every strike filled with purpose. The Dravari tried to adapt, but their formations faltered. It was like wolves circling lions. For the first time, the predators knew fear. The governor leaned close to the screen, his voice weak. How many ships? How many did Earth send? The operator answered with trembling awe. Too many to count. And it was true, more ships poured from the rift, their numbers stretching further than the eye could follow. It was not just a fleet, it was an armada. On the Dravari flagship, commanders shouted in rage. They had crushed empires, burned worlds, but never had they seen such unity, never had they faced such overwhelming force. Their confidence began to crack, their threats now carried the taste of fear. Then the human dreadnought spoke. A voice thundered across every channel, calm yet unshakable. This is Admiral Reyes of the Terran Armada. To the people of Haven 6, you are not alone. To the Dravari fleet, surrender or be destroyed. The words rolled like thunder, shaking the air. The colonists burst into cheers, tears streaming down their faces. At last humanity had answered. The Dravari refused to yield. Their ships surged forward, green fire burning across the stars, but the Armada responded with fury. Human battleships unleashed waves of plasma. Cruisers rained missiles that tore through alien hulls. Fighters ripped apart engines and weapons with deadly precision. The void itself seemed to burn with war. On the surface, the ground shook from the thunder above. The colonists could see the battle with their naked eyes, alien ships falling like burning meteors, human vessels holding strong in brilliant formations. Every explosion was a promise, a vow that Haven 6 would not fall. Yet even as the battle raged, tension grew. The Armada was mighty, but the Dravari were cunning. Their flagship, larger than mountains, unleashed a weapon never seen before, a lance of dark energy that sliced through space itself, tearing apart 3 human cruisers in one strike. The colonists gasped in horror. The Armada shuddered but did not break. In the command bunker, Captain Lyra's voice rang clear. This is not just a fight for Haven 6. This is a fight for all of humanity. If we fall here, the Dravari will think Earth is weak. But if we stand, they will never forget the day humans came together. Her words spread like fire, igniting courage once more. The people of Haven 6 had thought no one would come, but now the greatest fleet in human history filled their skies, and though the battle was only beginning, one truth was clear. The Dravari had awakened something they could never control. Earth had come, and it had come with fury. The void above Haven 6 was no longer a silent ocean. It was a storm of fire, steel and fury. Human ships and Dravari war machines clashed in waves of light. Each explosion lit the sky like a new sun, raining debris upon the helpless world below. The Terran Armada moved like a single organism. Fighters darted through enemy lines with deadly precision. Carriers launched wave after wave of reinforcements, their hangars glowing like hives of fire. Dreadnoughts stood as immovable giants, trading blows with ships as large as cities. Every weapon roared, every shield burned, and still the Armada advanced. But the Dravari did not falter. Their flagship loomed in the center of their formation, a beast of black iron with spines of green fire. It was called the Harbinger of Silence, feared across 100 worlds. Its cannons spat death with every volley, tearing apart smaller human ships like paper in the wind, yet the Armada did not break. On Haven 6, the colonists watched in awe and
terror. Every time a human ship fell, their hearts sank. Every time a Dravari cruiser burned, their voices rose in cheers. Children clung to their parents, asking if Earth would win.
And though fear lingered, hope now burned brighter than despair. Inside the human flagship Eternal Resolve, Admiral Reyes stood tall on the command deck. His eyes followed the battlefield with calm intensity. "Push the second line forward. Hold formation. Do not give them room to regroup," he ordered. His voice was steady, unshaken, a rock in the storm. His officers moved with precision, trusting his every command. The Dravari countered with brutal force. They unleashed swarms of drones, black machines that darted like hornets, slamming into human fighters and tearing them apart. They launched plasma bombs that carved through shields, leaving human destroyers crippled and burning. For every Dravari ship destroyed, humanity paid a heavy price. Captain Lyra, watching from the command bunker on Haven 6, clenched her fists. She whispered, "So much blood, so much sacrifice. But this is what it takes to prove we will not kneel." The governor beside her trembled, but for the first time in days his eyes shone with pride instead of fear. Then came the turning point. The Harbinger of Silence unleashed its terrible weapon again, a dark lance of energy that ripped through space itself. It struck the valiant Dawn, one of Earth's proudest cruisers, slicing it in half before the crew could even scream. The colonists cried out in despair, the sight burning into their souls. But Admiral Reyes did not flinch. He raised his hand and gave a single order: "Unleash the iron wings." From hidden hangars, new ships emerged. They were sleek, silver, and deadly, experimental strike craft never before seen in battle. Their wings glowed with pure energy. Their engines roared like thunder. They darted forward, faster than the eye could follow, slicing through Dravari lines like blades of light. The Dravari reeled in shock. Their drones fell in burning trails. Their frigates shattered under precise strikes. The iron wings moved as if they were one mind, weaving through fire and chaos, leaving destruction in their path. For the first time, the Dravari flagship trembled. Yet the enemy was far from defeated. The Dravari unleashed their own monstrous weapon. A living war beast, grown from twisted flesh and metal, hidden within their fleet, it unfurled like a nightmare, wings of bone stretching across the stars, a roar that echoed even through vacuum. The creature latched onto a human destroyer, ripping it apart with claws of molten steel. Panic swept through the colonists watching below. Some cried out, some fell silent, all gripped by the horror of what they saw. The Dravari had unleashed a terror that no human had ever faced before. Even Admiral Reyes stood frozen for a moment, staring at the beast as it tore ships apart, but then his voice rang out like a blade. "Focus all fire, bring it down." The Armada obeyed, dreadnoughts and cruisers turning their cannons as one. Streams of plasma and light poured into the beast. It screamed, a sound that shook the minds of those who heard it. It lashed out, destroying 2 more human ships before it finally burned, falling silent into the void. The colonists erupted into cheers, but the battle was far from over. The Dravari flagship still loomed, its weapons burning brighter, its commanders screaming for vengeance. The sky was filled with wreckage, human and alien alike, a graveyard of fire and steel. Yet through the smoke, the Armada still stood strong. On the ground, Captain Lyra raised her voice to the people of Haven 6. Look to the skies, do you see? Humanity does not abandon its own. This is not just a fleet. This is every man and woman who swore to defend us. Her words spread like wildfire, filling the shelters with cheers, prayers, and tears. Hope had returned, and with it, courage, still. The Dravari. We, Rinat Beaton, the harbinger of silence, began to move forward, its engines glowing with unnatural fire. It tore through its own fleet, charging straight at the human dreadnought Eternal Resolve.
The Battle of Legends was about to come down to 2 Titans, and all of Haven 6 held its breath. They thought the end had come days ago, but the real end was only now beginning. The battle had reached its breaking point. The sky above Haven 6 was torn apart, filled with wreckage and fire. The Terran Armada stood bloodied but unbroken, while the Dravari fleet still fought with savage desperation, and in the center of it all 2 Titans prepared to clash. The harbinger of silence pushed forward, its engines burning like green suns. It crushed its own damaged escorts out of the way, clearing a path toward its prey before it loomed the human dreadnought, Eternal Resolve. Vast and unyielding, one carried fear and cruelty, the other carried hope and defiance, and all of Haven 6 watched with breath held tight. Inside the command deck of the Eternal Resolve, Admiral Reyes stood tall. He looked upon the monster of steel and hatred that came for him. "Bring us forward," he ordered, his voice calm but his eyes burning with fire. The dreadnought moved ahead, every cannon armed, every shield charged. This was no longer just a battle, it was a judgment. The Dravari flagship struck first. Its superweapon screamed again, a dark lance of energy slicing through the void. It slammed into the dreadnought's shields, making them flare like molten glass. The Eternal Resolve shook. Alarms screamed. Crew staggered, but still the shields held. The people of Haven 6 cried out in terror, but then they saw the dreadnought still standing, and hope returned like a rising star. "Return fire," Reyes commanded, and the dreadnought answered with fury. Its cannons unleashed torrents of plasma. Its missiles tore through the void. The harbinger of silence staggered as its armor cracked, chunks of black steel breaking away into space. The Dravari screamed, their arrogance turning to rage. The fleet round them clashed in chaos. Human fighters and iron wings weaved through enemy lines, destroying engines, crippling turrets, cutting supply ships apart. The Dravari fought like cornered beasts, their ships exploding one by one under the relentless assault, yet none dared to retreat, for they knew their flagship watched. It demanded their sacrifice. On the surface, Captain Lyra raised her voice again. "Do you see it? Do you see how Earth fights for us?" She shouted to the people of Haven 6. Tears streamed down faces. Hands reached to the sky. Children cheered despite the thunder above. The colony that once thought itself forgotten now knew a truth carved in fire. They were not alone. Then came the moment. The Dravari flagship unleashed its weapon once more. The lance of dark energy struck true, slamming into the Eternal Resolve. Shields shattered, armor cracked. The giant shuddered as if about to break. Cries filled the command deck. Smoke and sparks rained down. But Admiral Reyes stood firm. His voice thundered above the chaos. "We do not yield. Fire everything." The dreadnought poured its soul into the strike. Every cannon fired, every missile launched, every ounce of power drained into one final storm. The void itself lit up brighter than a sun. The Dravari flagship roared in defiance, its armor burning, its engines exploding. The clash of giants shook the heavens, and then silence, the harbinger of silence, cracked apart, torn down the middle by fire and fury. Its core detonated, exploding in a wave of green fire that lit the stars. For miles, the beast that had haunted the galaxy was gone, destroyed before the eyes of those it had sought to enslave. The Dravari fleet faltered, their will broken. Without their flagship, their courage crumbled. One by one, their ships were hunted down, destroyed, or forced to flee into the black. The Terran Armada did not stop. Until the last enemy was gone, the void above Haven 6 belonged to humanity once more. They thought no one would come until Earth's mightiest armada arrived.